Conditional statements. So, what's a conditional statement? It's a sequence of actions, or basically a chunk of code or block of code, that's only executed when a statement is true. And as soon as that statement is not true anymore, which is false, it stops executing that piece of code. So, here is an example. The first one is the if statement. That's probably the major one. And actually, you can probably do any code with if statements. Now, it might not be the most efficient way all the time, but the if statement is definitely the major one. So, code within an if statement is only executed if the condition right after the if word is true. Okay? So, there's going to be a condition statement, and right after the if sign. If it's true, then it's going to execute the code right after it. So here in this example, let's take a look at this. We have two variables. We have the freezing point, that's 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the current temperature, that's 25 degrees, okay? And you see the if statement that says if the current temperature is less than the freezing point, then what's inside of the curly braces will be printed, okay? The current temperature is below the freezing point. And since the current temperature is less than the freezing point, 25 is less than 32, then the println will get executed, okay? So anything within those two curly braces will only get executed if the if statement is evaluated to true. All right, moving on. If else. If else is pretty much the same as the if you just saw, but this time, if the statement is false, then the else part gets executed. Okay, so this time we have the freezing point that's still 32, but the current temperature is 50. So guess what? If the current temperature is less than freezing point, will be evaluated to false, right? Because the current temperature is more than the freezing point. Then the second println will get executed, the one within the else curly braces. The current temperature is above the freezing point. Now there's another if type, it's called the ternary if, which is technically you really don't need to use this one. This one is just a neat way in Swift to have everything in one single line. As you can see, you have the evaluate statement, then a question mark, then if it's true, you have the code that runs, and then you have a colon, and you have the false one. So in the example below, you have freezing point 32 and the current temperature that's 50. So as you can see, you have the first statement that's highlighted in blue. It says current temperature is less than freezing point, then the question mark. So it's basically asking, is the current temperature less than the freezing point? And if that's true, then it's going to print true. If not, it's going to print false after the column, okay? So basically, remember, question mark and column is what you need here. All right, switch statement. Now, switch statement is when you have too many if-else in a row. You know, whenever you need to test, let's say for a certain temperature, and you want multiple cases, and you have way too many. You don't want to do you don't want to do a dozen of if-else in a row. So you can use a switch statement. It's easier to debug, easier to read, easier to understand. Well, not for everyone. Easier to maintain, and it executes much faster than if you had multiple if-else in a row. So in this example, you have the current temperature, that's 50, and then we switch the current temperature. We say whenever the case is 32, so whenever the current temperature is 32, it's going to print reach freezing point. Now, we have a case 0.31. Now, when you have three dots in a row, it means that it has all the values from 0 to 31. And here it would print below freezing. And then you have the case when the values are from 32 to 100, above freezing, and then the default value, it means that if somehow the current temperature does not meet any of the cases above, it will use the default case and will print unknown value. Well, right now the current temperature is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so it will print to the console above freezing. It will go to the case where it says 33.100. Okay, now some of you might want to go and look at the advanced switch statement, but you can do just fine with the regular switch. So don't worry too much about this part, only for those of you that want to go the extra mile. So you can combine the switch statement with tuples, which are some kind of coordinates, x, y, and for multiple dimensional statements. So let's take a look at the code here. You have the GPS location that has longitude and latitude, which is, let's say, 1 and 0. Obviously, it has been simplified here because Usually longitude and latitude are very are decimal numbers and are way longer than this, but here it's been simplified for the sake of the example. So we're going to switch on the GPS location, and as you can see, we have multiple cases. We have 5 different cases. First of all, we have the default case. We say the city is non-available. So if it does not fit any of these cases, we're just going to print city non-available. However, we have the case 00, which prints San Francisco, then 10, print Los Angeles, 01, print New York, and the case 11 prints city Miami. So as you can see, we can switch on all the values within the GPS locations. Okay, isn't that cool? You can mix tuples and switch. And another advanced one is the switch statement that's mixed with the where clause. Okay, so in this time, as you can see, we can do something that's more mathematical here. Take a look at the case. Okay, you guys see the case let longitude, latitude, where longitude is equal to latitude. Now, longitude and latitude can be any values here in this case. It could be 10, it could be 100, it could be a million. It would take all the values. It does not matter. What matters is that it tests if the longitude is equal to the latitude. And in the very next case, it tests in the where statement if the longitude is different than the latitude. Okay, now the GPS location coordinates here are 1, 1. So obviously the x and y are the same. The longitude is the same as the latitude, right? So it will use the case where longitude is equal to latitude, and it would print city's longitude is equal to its latitude. All right. And finally, another advanced feature of the switch is that you can use the fall through to a switch case that lets the program execute the following cases. Because what's going on in a regular switch statement, as soon as it found a case, it stops there, it moves on. But if you have multiple cases, that may be okay. You want to use the word fall through. And as you can see here, we have number that's 6. Okay, so 6 can actually be in 2 cases here. It could be in the case where 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it is an even number. So it would print even number. And that's why you want to use fall through, because it also fits in the next case, where it's a value between 5 and 10, right? So 5 dot 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 10, it also fits that. Number is greater than 4. Okay? So as you can see, use the word fall through if you want to test for multiple cases. All right, and that's it for the advanced switch statement and all of the conditional statements. See you guys in the next lecture.